Today, we're diving into an incredible battle, one that takes place not on some distant field, but right inside your own head. We're going to look at how your brain wages war on germs, sometimes before they're even there. I mean, that sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? The idea that just thinking you're near a threat could actually kick your immune system into high gear. We're going to explore whether your brain has this hidden early warning system and how a bunch of scientists used VR to find out. So, to tackle a question this big, scientists had to get really creative. They used immersive virtual reality to simulate a threat, and then they measured what happened next, not just in the brain, but down to the level of the bloodstream itself. Okay, so first things first. The researchers needed a way to measure something that's completely invisible, the personal danger zone that your brain projects around your body. It's officially called peripersonal space, or PPS. But a better way to think of it is like an invisible force field that your brain maintains around you. It's constantly on the lookout for anything that might come into contact with you, whether that's a friendly handshake or, something you'd rather avoid. And the experiment they designed was just so clever. So participants are in VR, and they see a virtual person walk towards them. At different moments, they get a light, totally unexpected puff of air on their face, and their job is to hit a button the second they feel it. See, a faster reaction time means your brain is on higher alert because it senses that object is inside its danger zone. Now check this out, because here's where it gets really, really interesting. When the avatar coming towards them looked perfectly healthy, that danger zone was pretty small, right up close to the person's body. But when the avatar showed visible signs of being sick, whoa, the brain massively expanded that protective bubble, reacting to the sick person when they were still way, way farther away. So an expanding force field is one thing, that's the behavioral evidence. But the next, and maybe more important question, is what was actually going on inside the brain to make that happen? And this is really the key. Was this just a simple knee-jerk yuck reaction to seeing something unpleasant? Or was the brain running a very specific infection alert program? To figure that out, they had to move from behavior to brain scans. And boom, the fMRI scans gave them the answer. When people saw the infectious avatar, it lit up two key brain networks. The PPS network, that's the one managing your personal space shield, and something called the salience network, which is basically the brain's master threat detector. It's the part that screams, hey, pay attention to this, it's important. And they could even zoom in and pinpoint the exact command centers. Now, don't worry about memorizing these names, but what you're looking at here, places like the anterior insula and the anterior cingulate cortex, these are crucial parts of that salience network. Think of them as the managers of the whole alarm system, deciding what deserves your immediate, focused attention. Okay, so a brain seeing a virtual threat and sounding an internal alarm, that is already fascinating. But this is where the story goes from the mind directly into the body, and it gets wild. I mean, this is the big one, isn't it? Could this purely mental state, this anticipation of a threat that wasn't even real, could it trigger a physical, biological change in the body's actual defenses? To find out, they took another huge step. They started drawing blood. They took samples from the participants right after the VR experience to see if a purely virtual encounter could leave a real, physical trace in their immune cells. And they were looking for these incredible cells right here, innate lymphoid cells, or ILCs. You can think of these guys as the immune system's elite special forces. They are the first responders on the scene, and they are absolutely critical for the first few hours of fighting off an infection. And this is the jaw dropper. The changes they saw in these ILCs after somebody just saw a sick person in VR were remarkably similar to the changes they saw in a different group of people who had just gotten a real flu vaccine. Let that sink in. The body was reacting to a fake threat as if it were a real one. The study itself just says it perfectly. Neural anticipation, just thinking about it, instigates changes in innate lymphoid cells, mirroring responses seen in actual infections. It's incredible. So how? How is that even possible? What is the secret hotline that connects a thought, a perception in the brain, to an immune cell floating around in your bloodstream? Well, it turns out it's a very clear biological chain of command. First, your eyes see the potential threat. That signal goes to the brain's alarm network, the salience network. This alerts the hypothalamus, which is kind of like mission control for the body's hormones. The hypothalamus then uses that famous stress pathway, the HPA axis, to send out the chemical go signal that mobilizes those ILCs and gets them ready for battle. And it's not just some blunt on-off switch. The brain is acting like a master chemist. It sends out this very specific chemical cocktail of hormones and other signals to precisely fine-tune the immune response, getting it ready for a specific kind of threat. So why would our bodies be so hair-trigger about this? Well, it's explained by something called the smoke detector principle. Evolutionarily speaking, it is way, way safer to have a super sensitive alarm that sometimes goes off by mistake, like reacting to a virtual germ, than it is to have an alarm that fails to go off during a real fire. Our whole defense system is built to be a little bit overly cautious. And all of this just leaves us with this one final fascinating thought. If our minds can literally prepare our bodies for a fight against a threat that isn't even physically there, it just makes you wonder, what other untapped powers does this profound connection between our mind and our body really hold?